right, we're live. You can feel the winds of change circling our country. There is a coordinated attack against the citizens of the United States by a group pushing mass surveillance and AI data centers. If you're one of the millions of citizens who want to know what's going on behind this massive deep state plot, you're going to want to watch this. We're going to show you that this huge surveillance tornado swirling around this country has a downspout of destruction exactly where I said it would be. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm an unheard eyewitness against the person and the organization that led this attack against our country by illegal spying. Before we dive in with the evidence that you want to see, I want to be very clear. This is serious. The evidence we are presenting you is going to ring your bell. You're going to be shocked at what we put together for you today. We're going to present it in a lighthearted fashion, but do not be deceived. This is no joke. And now, introducing my co-host, logicologist Josiah Royce, with the weather. What's going on?
Weather?
What's going on with the weather?
Well, what can I say? It's hot. And if it's not hot, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this, if it's not hot, then you're in the wrong part of the world, or you're way behind on the times and you're watching this video 6 months too late.
It has been hot this week, that's for sure.
It's been blazing hot. I'm kind of scorched.
We had, yeah, no kidding. You're kind of like dark on the screen there. Would you smile for us? There he is. Okay, I can see him now. You work outside.
Yeah.
Get plenty of sunshine. Yeah, it's
on the sun, the wind.
There's enough vitamin D going around. I got caught up in, and this is so funny because we're doing like this political storm here, and I got caught up in a dust storm at work, just like pelted. That's the North Dakota thing. We get these, dirt devils they call them, or.
It was still where I was at. It was windy.
Yeah, windy was out there and hot. How do you have like noise? Like I got all these sound effects here, but I don't have any way to do like sunshine. I just couldn't come up with like the beaming sound of sunshine.
Sunshine is just, think about birds chirping and stuff. That's probably an indicator of nice weather.
Yes. So we have the winds of change spiraling, swirling, this massive tornado of corruption coming our way, and it is going to be ugly. You're getting ready to see what you're the most afraid of. What I'm going to show you today that's happening on our national scale is a 5-alarm fire. Everyone sees it, but nobody's figured out who's behind it. Today we're going to show you who is behind this communist police state. The flock officials are accusing the opposition of being terrorist. The people that are over this huge spying operation are accusing the people that are against the unconstitutional and illegal. There's tons of illegal spying on. These police officers are being charged all over, especially in Georgia. But the people that are exposing them, D-Flock, is being called terrorist by Flock. Okay, now. And
their followers.
Yeah.
Dude was like D-Flock and their whole group, their whole following.
This is horrible. I want to play it straight out of the CEO, the Flock's CEO, Garrett Langley, straight out of his mouth, because this is so disturbing to me. If I can figure out how this works again.
And thankfully, we live in a beautifully democratic, capitalistic country where we can fight in court. And I have a lot of respect for those groups because they have reasonable debates and we follow the law. And then unfortunately, there's terroristic organizations like D-Flock, whose primary motivation is chaos.
Go flock yourself.
He said that D-Flock was a terrorist organization. Yeah. Okay, so this is a man who has a company that's set up cameras all across this country, which is unreasonable search and seizure.
Spying.
Pretty much undeniably. That's been used for all kinds of corruption, stalking people. The police we've covered this in past episodes, and constantly being exposed for violating people's rights and stalking people and committing crimes, being charged with crimes.
I have a thought. I don't want to lose it.
Go ahead.
the reason why their whole argument where they say, oh, but it's just public, you have no right to privacy in public. The reason why this is a Fourth Amendment violation is because these are facial recognition cameras that ID you the second they see you. So it would be very much likened to if just to go outside the house and go to your mailbox or go to the town square or whatever, a cop says, hey, papers, I need your ID, I need to scan you, I need to document that you were here at this time and who was with you and how you got here, where you came by, scooter, bicycle, car, whatever. We're going to document all that and it's going to go into a file. There's not one person out there that would argue that would be reasonable, because the whole Fourth Amendment is unreasonable search and seizures. So that's not reasonable. So these flock cameras are doing that on their own, no matter what, every time you go out.
Using AI tracking the whole, it's completely unreasonable.
And making
if somebody walks up to you and starts watching you in your car, that's unreasonable.
Or it'd be considered harassment. Like, say if a private citizen was like just going to go around document, it's like, sure, you're in public view, but it's like if they were going to ID you, like forcibly, because that's the thing where I'm not saying, sure, camera, go ahead and look up who I am. I'm not saying that. But imagine also somebody actually keeping a ledger of like, you were here at this time, and like everywhere you go all the time, it's like, hey man, like some privacy here. Now people say, if you got nothing to hide, then what are you worried about? It's like, well, what kind of underwear you got on?
Plenty.
You got something to hide?
Yeah.
Or do you just have privacy and you want me to respect your privacy?
Right, yeah. Just decent, common sense, common decency. You don't go look in people's windows. You don't go look in people's cars. You don't, if a cop went up and just started looking in some brother's car, you'd be like, hey, wait a minute. Well, no, we got a camera that's aimed down in the car that's literally designed to scan you. That's just part. That's just part of it. They're talking about like helicopters following people around or drones following people around. It gets really bad really fast.
Yeah.
And it's completely ridiculous. These people have an absolute right to complain about the violation of their privacy. I don't think there's any debate about that. But I'm having deja vu here because he's calling the people that oppose him. Now, some of them he's saying, we'll see you in court. We'll debate this in court. Some of these organizations, he's not going to, say some nasty things about the ACLU because he knows they're going to take him to court and he's going to have to answer it. But there's more to that. You're getting ready to see something incredibly disturbing with that. But the deja vu that's bothering me is the terrorist term. You've been called a terrorist when you weren't a terrorist. We still have to deal with somebody that's doing that.
Yeah.
But there's a huge national scene where the biggest investigation in our country is a treason investigation. Yeah. They called our president a terrorist.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this isn't about Trump. If you don't like Trump, great. It's not about Trump. The point being, they classified the president of the United States as a terrorist in order to spy on him. And now we have this huge spy agency that's saying these people are terrorists. We're justified in defending ourselves against terrorists. That's written on the hearts of every American citizen. And now he's saying we are going to label these people that are opposed to us spying on them as terrorists. Is this like deja vu for you?
It reminds me of it's historical to me. It's Boston Tea Party. It's like I see tea in the river when people are cutting down flat cameras and stuff. Not that we advocate that at all.
Yeah. No, yeah, and we're not advocating any illegal activity or anything like that. It's just we're using our voice. Okay, this is our first constitutional right here. But what you're fixing to see is a disturbing pattern that nobody else is talking about. That's going to rattle your chain. If this sinks in and you understand the pieces that we're putting together in this puzzle, you should be electrified by the end of this little show we're doing here.
And tactics are so familiar. They're so repetitive. So when you say deja vu, go back to if you had a problem with anything unconstitutional, anything unlawful, anything financially devastating that President Obama did, right. What were you called?
Racist, terrorist, homophobic.
Yeah, you were called all those things if you're just like, but fundamentally I'm against this action. But now you terrorize, me right. In a sense. You come after my character, calling me all these things. And so that's just a tactic that gets used over and over and over again. People, have you woken up yet? Like, look at COVID 2020. If you didn't take the vaccine, you were an insane conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Or maybe I was just healthy.
And now there's Anthony Fauci's taking the fifth, right? Okay.
Yeah, 80 times.
So, but here's the thing. The Flock CEO says, thankfully, we live in a beautifully democratic country where we can fight in court. Okay, now these guys have lots of money. They want to fight in court. Wait a minute. Then there are terrorist organizations like DFLOC, whose primary motive is chaos. That's what he says. Now, why did Flock set up in Atlanta, Georgia? We have seen the corruption in Atlanta and Georgia around the Flock cameras. Now, granted, they have more than everybody else, but this police using this system, there is so much wrong with this that we're going to talk about. But stay with me because you're going to see something terrifying by the end of this video. I want you to focus on this point. This is the epicenter of the national storm. The question that I'm asking you to think about here is, why did Flock set up their headquarters in Atlanta? You just heard Garrett Langley, the CEO of Flock, saying that he wants to settle the debate in the court system. And Flock is in Atlanta. What do we know about the Atlanta court system, Josiah? Where's the top court in Atlanta?
Where do we begin? With Atlanta, I would like to point out a reminder that even CNN, in my opinion, the headquarters of fake news, their headquarters, if I'm not mistaken, is in Atlanta. I mean, I've driven by it, and I don't know if they have like another location, but that's like their big like CNN location. Georgia is where obviously a lot of election fraud
It's the
suspicion took place.
Headquarters of election fraud.
Yeah, it's time and time again. It's Atlanta.
It's
Georgia.
There are hundreds of FBI agents at the Richard Brevard Russell Federal Building in Atlanta investigating election fraud. There was massive election fraud on many different levels that was covered up repeatedly by the authorities, and it is come out, and it's been under investigation. I think the last report was that there were 250 FBI agents. I know 2 got fired because they didn't want to cooperate and do the investigation, but 250 FBI agents in Atlanta, Fulton County, investigating the Fulton County election system. The federal building, the Richard Brevard Russell building, is in Fulton County, Georgia. Now, Richard Brevard Russell was from the secret society family that controlled slavery across the globe with the British East India Company. Richard Brevard Russell and the Richard Brevard Russell family not only settled the slave trade in the United States and brought slaves from China through the British East India Company, but from Africa to America, and they were over this country before this country was a country, when it was when it were colonies. So Richard Brevard Russell Jr., his father owned a whole bunch of slaves, was the senator from Georgia that was over the spy agencies since their inception. Okay. Now, he was a Freemason, a great big Freemason over the spy agencies. J. Edgar Hoover established the FBI. Okay, he was first director of the FBI. He was a huge Freemason. This happened under President Truman. President Truman was a huge Freemason. So what we're looking at is this huge control of the spy agencies by Freemasons, overseen by a family that came out of Georgia. Winder, Georgia, originally, when it was first established, where my case started, and ultimately run by Sally Yates through the Fulton County Federal Building. What you got?
I was going to write it down so I didn't interrupt, but you know what? Here's the thing. What you said about Truman, bear in mind that he's the president right after World War II. Mm-hmm. And as far as things getting shaky with our federal government and corruption and all sorts of stuff, General George Patton, who won us World War II, said at the end, "My fellow Americans, I have come to the conclusion that we defeated the wrong enemy." Not that Hitler was a good guy or anything, but he said we should have fought with the fascists to beat communism because that was the greater threat than fascism was. And then he just accidentally died, got hit by an army truck, no investigation or anything right afterwards. So I'm just saying, right after, so it's like we get rid of FDR, he's done, he's gone. George Patton, done and gone, right. In a very suspicious way, by the way. And then here comes the FBI. And it's like, it's a lot of dirty stuff happening at the time, but as far as overthrowing the country, you do it from within. But Patton warned, he said that communism was the greater threat. So it works away from the inside.
That's interesting. I don't know. That's not my
We'll touch
expertise.
back on that later. We'll research that and bring the stuff later. But I'm just saying, as far as the country being attacked from the inside, I mean, Stalin was all in on that and stuff. There's a whole lot there.
World War II had a lot to do with the Freemasons.
Yes,
and we're going to get into a little bit about that right now. We're going to touch on it. But so President Truman, big Freemason, and close friends with Richard Brevard Russell Jr., the senator over all of the spy agencies in the United States since their inception, from Winder, Georgia, whose family controlled the federal authorities in Georgia since the establishment of the government in Georgia. They're intermarried with Sally Yates' family on both sides, the Terrells and the Quillians. These people stalked the FBI with secret society Freemasons. Okay, spy class, this is review. The spy agencies were established by the Freemasons. Our current FBI director, Kash Patel, is going to call the FBI building, which is the J. Edgar Hoover building, named for a Freemason, what it is. All right, watch.
In this very building, there were rooms that were hidden away from the map site of the building, and nobody had access into them. And once we got into those rooms, we found more information related to the Russiagate hoax from prior FBI leadership. Information that was in burn bags that they wanted to have destroyed, but for whatever reason, no one ever got around to it, or they thought we would just never find it. So we have multiple teams. We've built squads for both Russiagate and Arctic Frost, and we're using the grand jury process, and we are issuing, I think we're up to like 75 or 100 subpoenas already for witnesses. That's what you target first. We also have targets of our investigation, people we think committed acts of criminal conduct.
Okay, so that's Kash Patel saying that this is a huge investigation, teams investigating it, that they are looking for witnesses to go after the targets. What I'm getting ready to show you is that I'm an eyewitness. I've been screaming, I'm an unheard eyewitness. Sally Yates is undeniably a target. So I want to play from that investigation that he's talking about. It's being overseen by a man named Joe diGenova. I want to play Joe diGenova's statement stating that Sally Yates is a target, because I'm going to show you that I'm an eyewitness against her, that it's absolutely preposterous that we're even having this after we've presented it so many times, saying I'm an eyewitness against Sally Yates, but here it is right out of the mouth of the person that's overseeing this investigation.
This situation where we have such incredibly credible evidence that evidence against the people at the top, that you may very well start your grand jury investigation with the former president of the United States, the vice president, the attorney general, Loretta Lynch, Sally Yates, who was the deputy attorney general.
Boom, there it is. He names her. Sally Yates was the deputy attorney general who signed the FISA warrant against Trump. Obviously, because she was the person that classified Trump as a foreign agent the first time and then renewed that. Okay, so that was a short review to remind you that this is a huge national investigation, the most important investigation in history, because it was an investigation into who's conspiring to overthrow our country. Criminals in the FBI have continually destroyed the evidence. Okay, we're going to play Kash Patel telling you about burn bags. How are there so many conspiring criminals in the FBI? It was stalked by Freemasons at the top who brought in other Freemasons. You're going to see that Chris Wray, a suspect, brought in another criminal that's caught in this case. This next clip is going to show you how they conspire. The reporter, Trey Gowdy, is going to ask Kash Patel about FBI agents who may be loyal to Chris Wray, even though Chris Wray has been fired. You're going to hear Kash Patel blow that off, but we're getting ready to show you that's what's happened. Here it is.
Who may have been loyal to Christopher Wray.
What we have found here is that any leadership that weaponized this Federal Bureau of Investigation in the prior administration or before that, we removed. Once we put our leaders in the field, like our new ADIC in Washington, D.C., and the deputy director and all other leadership across our 7th floor here, we told them the mission is simply as follows: crush violent crime and defend the homeland. That's what we do, and hold people accountable. And once that message and our leadership got out into the field, and here's another important part, we put 1,000 agents across America, removed them from headquarters, took intel analysts and support staff and pushed them out across the country to say the crime fighting has to happen out in the streets and in the cities of America, and not inside the Hoover building and the headquarters building that built this diseased temple of weaponization.
That built this diseased temple of weaponization. So I don't want to lose track of that. That's like this huge fact. What he said there is so loud and so amazing. But I want to go back because he said a whole lot. Trey Gowdy said, well, what do we do if there's people that are loyal to Chris Wray? Okay. What if Chris Wray has some people, because this is he just called it a diseased temple. And we're going to show you this was the Freemasons. It was established by the Freemasons. When you get a government building that's called a temple, you got to scratch your head and go, wait a minute, why did the FBI director call it J. Edgar Hoover was a Freemason? Freemasons meet secretly in temples. The Freemasons conspire. This was a diseased temple of weaponization because it was run by Freemasons who were brought in. We just exposed a whole bunch of them and showed you the leadership were these people. So Trey Gowdy says, what about these other people that may be loyal to Chris Wray? And I love Kash Patel. I think he's great. I think he's doing his job. I think he's a great FBI director, probably the best one I can remember in history. But he blows it off like, we got rid of all those people. We're getting ready to show you that there's one caught criminal in an act of treason right now in the FBI over this case. Okay, we're getting ready to show you who he is. But so that is really, really loud. But the temple of weaponization is the Freemasons' historical secret meeting place. They use that term temple. It's really sick. It's really like wicked from the religious belief of our founding fathers, aside from those, that were Freemasons or that claim to be both.
And I do want to point out, there's a lot of negative criticism on Kash Patel, on President Trump, and everything, because I even have personal friends that are like, well, they're in charge now and things are still bad, so they're part of it, and it's like, well, put yourself in their shoes for a second. Realistically, do you think that this guy can just come in and be like, all right, everybody who's not actually a patriot and is corrupt and everything, can you raise your hand so we can fire you? It's like, it doesn't work that way.
This is what I want. I want that all the people that are just like constantly hating on Trump, I want the membership of the Freemasons exposed. And I want to know how many of these people that have like dedicated their lives to convincing the world that Trump's a piece of dirt, I want to know how many of them are really Freemasons. Because I got this funny suspicion that is a big part of the fake news, fake media. I know we're facing it.
Well, I just want to know if they hold everybody else to the same standard, because I'll pride myself on this that I do. And so what I mean by that is I voted for Trump 3 times, and there are some things that he says from the stage or whatever, like when he's addressing the crowd, for things that he coming up.
Oh, you don't agree with every single thing he says.
I don't agree.
Yeah.
And it's like,
the spy, the Flock system is, he's huge on the AI data centers.
The data centers.
And I'm like, no, I don't think we need all that. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter whether you support Trump or not. This is not about Trump. The person that overthrew our country, that signed the FISA warrant against Trump, Sally Yates, told me herself, we're taking over by whatever means necessary. The one threat that we face that might keep us from being able to pull off this heist is if Trump gets elected. And if he does, we'll do everything to get him out, because they don't own him, okay? So
and that's a very temporary roadblock, by the way, because Trump, he's got 2 terms. We're halfway through this one, and so, friendly warning and reminder to everybody, if you think things are bad now, imagine when he's not even a threat on the table anymore. What I mean by that is when Biden was in for his 4 years,
and Biden was just a puppet.
They were still scared of Trump coming back, and they were scared of MAGA. They were scared of the whole thing. And when Trump's done and he's gone, and it's like it took somebody that kind of big name, that big money and everything to beat the establishment to get into office.
Right.
Now who's next? And it's not the VP.
Well,
he's not
somebody that's going to be a lot easier to control. Trump's a bull in a china shop. He's got enough money. He's a businessman, and he's not easy to manipulate. And they knew that. They literally have studied all the candidates that well that Sally Yates was able to tell me that this is a man that will likely run. In 2009, well, she told me in 2010 that if he runs, it could be a problem.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's, and they had analyzed the election. She said most likely the next election will be between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But I want to focus on that last video again with Trey Gowdy saying, what about anybody who's loyal to Chris Wray or the Freemasons? He doesn't say that, but they prove that the whole weaponized temple thing proves that there's a concern there. And Kash Patel's trying, we did our job. We're getting them out. We got them all out. Everybody's doing their job. We're making sure everybody's doing their job. But what's happened here is there's a man named Alvin Winston. Alvin Winston was appointed by Chris Wray, and he's still obstructing this investigation. He didn't get removed. He's from, guess where? Fulton County, Georgia. Oh, that's really, yeah. Okay, so right there, anybody that sees this that's in the federal government or that has a voice should be screaming that, hey, wait a minute, there's an eyewitness here, man, that claims to be an eyewitness that is making some points that really we should be noticing here. So the grand conspiracy was led by Freemasons and the spy agencies. We know that. Sally Yates told me they were going to do that. She was a Freemason. That's what caused me to start investigating and put all this together. But wait, what's going on in the Atlanta Richard Russell Federal Building right now? Another massive investigation into election fraud. Like I said, 250 agents from the FBI investigating election fraud in Fulton County.
And at that, I hope that they're handpicked because, like you said, if you have loyalists to the other side and you send them to go look for trouble, and they'll just,
You're gonna find it.
they'll get the ceiling the whole time.
Well, and who are the judges? So Sally Yates' uncle was a federal judge in Fulton County, Georgia, in the Richard Brevard Russell. Her father was a appeals court. Her grandfather was appeals court and state Supreme Court. These people, and that's just like her father and grandfather. When I go into her family, I've got like charts up here that y'all can't see in the studio here of charting her family and how many of these people, which ones were Freemasons and how many of them were in massive influential positions in the government. So Sally Yates, when I stung her, she told me, we're taking over by whatever means necessary. We'll do everything in our power to get Trump out. And I talked to her about fixing elections. Okay, so once again, this person that led the spy attack against our country by classifying Donald Trump as by classifying him as a terrorist and getting a FISA warrant to spy on him is who the legacy of the Fulton County Federal Building is. And now we have the Flock guys saying, oh, we'll take it to court in Georgia. I mean, is that disturbing or what?
It is to me.
I tell you what, I don't see how anybody can look at this and say, no, there's nothing to be alarmed about here. But wait, we're fixing to show you because there's a lot more to it. So, go ahead.
Well, the last time I was here, we talked about Freemasons and how they'll snag, people in college and stuff and groom them. And I mentioned that movie, The Skulls,
right?
With Paul Walker and how they depicted that. But it's the exact same thing. I just don't want to forget that they'll seek out who's going to be
They start at the top.
Lawyers and stuff, because lawyers become judges later on.
They start at the top.
Yeah, so it's like judges, lawyers, cops. It's like they'll all be under that hook, which means one entire branch of the...
Well, I'm getting ready to show y'all how secretive they are. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use their words to show you what they're doing. And you're going to see, you're going to put the pieces together and you're going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a problem. Who classified Trump as a Russian agent so they could spy on him? Sally Yates, the same suspect in the grand conspiracy investigation. So I want to point out, we're going to put a face on this because you're going to go, oh, wait a minute, I recognize that guy, but I didn't realize who that was. So this is Sally Yates. You see Sophie Cunningham pointing at Sally Yates there. She was the U.S. attorney, 20 years over the Richard Brevard Russell Federal Building, ultimately the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the United States. You could see her being sworn in there with Jim Comey, the chief suspects. When they talk about a grand conspiracy, this is huge. Now, we just had our local reporter here, Rob Port, the guy that can't get it right, did an article today about how the charges against Jim Comey are ridiculous. He should have been saying, hey, this man claims to be an eyewitness against Jim Comey's suspected co-conspirator. But instead, he's defending this. No, 8647 don't mean anything. This is what we're getting with fake news. Okay, so this is what's so disturbing, that there is a huge conspiracy to hide the truth. I ran for U.S. House in North Dakota. This man claims to be the top. He's the voice of North Dakota politics. He gets more play on his website, more attention than any other reporter in North Dakota. But when I get on there, I have people attack me, say all kinds of ridiculous things. I mean, by the end of it, they've cut me down so low that they're like, you're not even going to be able to reach the table to get your food. Every time you open your mouth, you get smaller and smaller. Nobody cares about you. And we'll be addressing some of these people because that's part of the attack against our country. That's what's happening that is so disturbing. But that's Sally Yates right there and Jim Comey, partners in crime. Sally Yates was the U.S. attorney over the Richard Brevard Russell Federal Building for 20 years, okay? Her family before that. She's intermarried with Richard Brevard Russell's family. They established this country together. Sally Yates was not only the U.S. attorney out of Fulton County, Georgia, that protected the election fraud, signed the FISA warrant against Trump, she was a high-ranking Freemason whose family settled Georgia over the Georgia legal system since its development. This is the same legal network that controls the Flock system, where the Flock surveillance set up to have their legal battles, and where the Flock surveillance is able to access data from across this country. In other words, Flock is a spy hub that is located under the court protection of Sally Quillian Yates' family, who has already been suspected of spying, and they're able to cover this investigation up. You look like you got something to say.
I have a lot of things to say about a lot of things that we're talking about here, but I can wait if you're. I don't want to throw you off. It's like I'm just making a list of the things I want to go back and review. We'll come back around for another lap.
Okay, so Flock, and you pointed this out before, that Flock is a spy hub, and I was under the impression that the local jurisdictions would own the spy data, but the more I read about it, it looks to me like Flock themselves actually own all of this video. So what you have is this corrupt area, Fulton County, Georgia, where the federal building's been horribly corrupt, where the person suspected of overthrowing our country and her family that's protected her and built this network is over the court system. The court system's literally named after their family. And now you have this, these people, I'm learning, have all of the access to all of these videos. Now this is crazy, but I'm from Dunwoody, Georgia. That's my hometown. I graduated from Dunwoody High School. Sally Quillian Yates graduated from Dunwoody High School. There is a huge story in the papers about a Flock executive that was caught spying on the gymnastics class, a bunch of kids at a Jewish center in gymnastics class using the Flock program in Dunwoody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't you say it was the VP or something of Flock? Or who was it? It was somebody.
It was one of their top-ranking officials. I mean, literally. But this is not lightning striking once. This is not lightning striking twice. This is lightning striking a third time. It just doesn't stop.
That we know of.
When I say there is a tornado of corruption circling this country that has a downspout in Atlanta, Georgia, it is because there is a tornado of corruption, spying corruption, that has a downspout in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is because there is a criminal organization led by Sally Quillian Yates and her ancestral Masonic family that is conspiring to overthrow our country. It is the Freemasons. And this whole situation is far too suspect for everybody to just glance over it and Rob Port to be like, oh, why are you so worried if you don't have anything to hide? You shouldn't. How is it that somebody in Atlanta, Georgia, would be able to go, and now if they can go look at a little kid's gym class without a warrant, you think they can track me up here? If on a Flock camera, if the Flock database is down there and they own all the footage.
And I don't want to get the website wrong, but I sent you a thing earlier when we were talking about this, and I said we need to check out this website. I think the website name was haveibeenflocked.com.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's I want to look and see because
that's an awesome point, because So what we saw in Georgia, we saw female officers who realized they were being stalked by the flock camera system, and that's how they figured out they were being stalked. They knew how the system worked. There were officers. They were able to go figure it out and check on it. The people that figured it out, the women that I saw that figured out they were stalked by corrupt cops without the system catching them, that's how they found it. They went to some websites, have I been, has this system, and they were able to find that by searching their name. And that's the crazy thing is I think that there's people all across this country that might be shocked at what they find.
How much they're being watched.
Yeah, it's absolutely alarming. But how many times do they have to commit a crime like this and get away with it before people begin to be like, hey, wait a minute. If they can do this, that's unreasonable. If they have the ability, that's just it. That's like saying you can't put a lock on your door to keep somebody out. You're allowed to use this little bitty lock right here that doesn't, a little kid can kick the door and get in if he gets stuck out in the cold. That's the biggest lock you can put on your door. No, we want more privacy than that. We want more security than that. We don't want a system that they can get in and go through and watch our little kids in gym class or watch us. It's just horrible.
And before I forget, and I know I sent you some of these clips too, but there's also testimonies out there of people that are aware that they are near flock cameras and all that stuff. And some gal had her car broken into and her wallet and a handgun and stuff stolen, and reported that to police saying, hey, well, whoever did it, there's a flock camera right there. You should be able to track their vehicle. They said, we don't use it for that.
Right.
Everyone,
this is my favorite.
Everyone, including I should say, former city councilmen and stuff that were saying, no, we need this because, solve crimes and stuff. They don't use it for that. That's not what it's for. You think it's going to help you when something happens and you go, hey, at least they got the plate number. Hey, I got a hit and run at Walmart parking lot and the cops wouldn't look at it. They wouldn't even look. They said, we're not going to be able to. Walmart said, we won't show the footage to anybody but police. So I call the police.
The police said we don't want to.
I just need this for insurance. You don't even have to catch the guy, but I need it for my insurance, right? Hit and run with my truck in a Walmart parking lot. I come out, my truck's all smashed up, and I said, just find the vehicle. We're not going to be able to see anything. It's,
we're not even going to try. This is for us to take advantage of you.
Yeah. What am I paying for?
If you don't have something for us, we're too busy with our own little stuff going on here, using the camera to put money in our pockets.
I will say,
I really wish in the future when this kind of thing happens, the right people are going to be catching it and come forward. But that is golden. I have seen the same thing.
Funny contrast. Come to think of it, I will say this. I've had a lot of police interaction in my life, like a lot. They've never, ever, and when you bear in mind that I'm paying for this, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's my tax dollars. As a public servant, it's never been of any help to me whatsoever. But the fastest I've ever gotten a cop off my back, when people are like, just play it cool, just don't. Actually, the fastest I've ever gotten rid of the cops before, I'm ashamed to say this online because I feel like they're going to change their game now. I asked them for help. That is when I don't get ID'd. That's when I don't get. When I ask a cop for help, they are gone. They leave.
There's a lot of good police officers out there.
But that's the fastest I've ever.
The more you give somebody the ability to take the easy way out, the more they form a habit of taking the easy way out. It's just the whole system, the whole concept is beyond ridiculous. But you'll find more help from a private business owner getting video from somebody that cares about just the guy next door than you will from a big government agency to go, your car got scratched. Oh, okay. If they think they're going to get some violent criminal charge out of it, if there's some news media behind it, yeah, maybe. But my experience is the same. When you want that, I had a story. I'm not even going to get into it here, but I had a story where I was robbed, literally robbed. The police would not go in and get the video surveillance from the company.
No.
The company destroyed it. And that's what ended up settling the case. But I've lived, like I said, I've seen it. I've lived through it. That's just my experience is that these people here need to be exposed every time something like that happens. The same way that guy was exposed for spying on those kids. The flock executive exposed for spying on little kids in gym class.
I saw one cop got fired. I can't remember what state it was in. Got fired for physically abusing this 18-year-old girl. She just, I don't know if she had a taillight out or something very minor, but she took too long getting her license, so then he ordered her out of the car, body slammed her, and did all this stuff. And of course, his camera wasn't working, the dash cam wasn't working. But you're right, the gas station camera, no problem. When the dad called that gas station, you got video of that? Yeah, we got video of that.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's the thing. If people know they're gonna be held accountable, it keeps even the bad ones more honest than they would be.
And people will say that about Flock, oh, it'll keep everybody accountable. No, it doesn't, because who's watching the watchers?
Right.
So we don't get access to it. It's a one-way weapon.
It's disturbing. But so, are you beginning to see a pattern of conspiracy coming from the Freemasons that controlled the federal building in Fulton County, Georgia? Like I said, Sally Yates and her family direct line descendants of all these Freemasons. Sally Yates is a direct line descendant of George Washington's mother, Mary Ball.
Oh, man.
Yep, that's how far back this goes. She is the top founding Freemason family, but through the Terrells and the Quillians. Her uncle, Judge Alfred Quillian, was a federal judge in the Richard Brevard Russell Federal Building. He was also a Dixie Mafia kingpin that I exposed in season 1 on FerrisBroxton.com. If you want to see the historical corruption of the Freemasons, how they established this country, and that Sally Yates' family was over the Dixie Mafia, literally killing. They had a hitman that killed over 55 people, Billy Burt, but they literally had a hitman working for him that was protected by the police. And I went back and I broke all that down in season 1. FerrisBroxton.com, season 1, the history of the Freemasons, on Sally Quillian Yates' family in Georgia. A bunch of these people were hardcore criminals. Sally's mother's family, the Terrell family, and her father's family, the Quillian family, were intermarried and legal partners with Richard Brevard Russell's family. This is one Masonic family that has conspired to overthrow your government. Not saying every single person, I'm just saying that group in the legal society from those families. How is it that the Flock Camera Company headquarters is nested under their guard? Now, we are going to take you to the apex of the vortex of the conspiracy to overthrow our country. Like I said, my little hometown of Dunwoody, Georgia, Sally Yates' little hometown, where the Flock Company rep is spying on scantily dressed little children in gymnastics. All of a sudden, like I said, you're beginning to see a disturbing pattern of corruption coming from Atlanta that is encompassing the biggest stories in this nation. The grand conspiracy case to overthrow your country, the election fraud case in Fulton County, Georgia, 250 FBI agents down there, and now the Flock headquarters. So we brought you up to this point here, and it's getting ready to get icky. So far, it's been scary, but what you're getting ready to see is really, really icky. This is going to be the person that I was saying is so scary. This is Alvin Winston. As you see Sophie Cunningham there pointing out Alvin Winston. Notice Chris Wray is right there next to him. You remember Trey Gowdy said, what about anybody that's loyal to Chris Wray? In the weaponized temple, in the Freemasons. That's him. That's the man from Fulton County, Georgia. His name is Alvin Winston. He is the FBI agent in charge. He is the special agent in charge of the office right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he's responsible for bringing me forward as the eyewitness against Sally Yates in the nation's top investigation. He was appointed to be over my area by Chris Wray from Fulton County, Georgia. This is one of the conspiring criminals that was not exposed and expelled from the FBI the way that Kash Patel said they were. He got through the net. He needs to be exposed. He's obstructing the nation's most important investigation and silencing the nation's most important unheard eyewitness. Go ahead.
Well, by the way, in case any of you are doubting Ferris on this matter, I happen to know, not even in a person, I've never met this guy, but I happen to know, have an acquaintance, Mitchell Sanderson is his name. You can find him on Facebook and everything, but he just posted a video, I think I sent it to you the other day, where he showed that he had all kinds of information tried sending to the FBI for stuff that he's verified, for laws that are being broken by the government. They returned the letter unopened.
Oh, I saw that.
And so it's like, for everyone that thinks, oh no, if this stuff was going on, it'd get found, they deliberately don't find out.
That's right. Yeah. In that case, it looked like they took their address that they're registered where they have an office and just said, we're not going to accept mail here. That's what they do. I've got the same exact thing, but I have reported to the FBI so many times and recorded them. I literally, on ferrisbroxton.com, I literally have the chronological videos, like I was saying, from season 1, from season 2 up to, I'm on episode 4 of Skin Diving with the Sharks, the point where Sally Yates signed the FISA warrant against Trump, where I'm stinging these people and they're trying to hold me and keep me silent. And then I've got the first few episodes of this, the right to bear arms. But we're putting together a list of every single time that I've called the FBI, sent email, filled out their online forms. I literally videotape myself doing it because they don't give you like a confirmation number.
Yep.
The phone calls, literally there's dozens of them to the FBI, NSA, DOJ, Governor Armstrong, Julie Fedorchak, and both U.S. attorneys. One, Drew Wrigley, used to be our U.S. attorney, and the new one, Nick Chase. Literally a litany of all of these different reports in the FBI trying all these different creative ways. I had Tommy James in this studio, local reporter here, in this studio, making a call to the FBI repeatedly after they repeatedly hung up on me. He calls, and we videotape all of this, and he calls and they hang up on him.
I went to our local FBI office and was turned away at the door. They said, you have to make an appointment. I call and make an appointment. Nobody answers the phone. I leave voicemails. I tried that numerous times. I went to the Minneapolis FBI headquarters twice in person. Somebody would come see me at the guard tower or whatever, the guard building, and I try and give them information, and they say, well, sorry, you got to go to your Minot office. That's the one that you got to go to, and it's like,
it's an intentional runaround.
Is there anybody actually in that building? Because they don't come out of it. It's like, what? It's a bad joke.
It's not. Yeah. I've collected a lot of information, and it's one of those. At some point, somebody's gonna be asking for some accountability, and I'm just gonna be sitting here going, I want them to face the full penalty of law through the legal procedure. The law says that the victims of a racket are to be compensated with the assets of the people that perpetrated the crime.
It's like if a referee is actually on the other guy's team, and who do you tell? So like when the referee's calling a game unfairly, and you go, hey ref, I'm going to submit a complaint for you to just throw in the garbage later. It's like, what's the point? Right. That's what we're stacked up against right now in our corrupt government is anyone that you try. That's why I ran for mayor. That's one of the reasons
you want to make a difference. Yeah.
Well, I ran for mayor because it's like, let's see, everybody that's in charge around here is freaking corrupt, and so like, what can you do if you're not in charge?
Right. And the people that are paying attention know it. But again, we need to have a question asked on every single election candidate across this country. Are you a Freemason? That should not be. Have you sworn an allegiance? Because we're getting ready to show you. That's what you're getting ready to see here. I keep telling you, you're going to see something like groundbreaking, riveting, that's going to tie to everything we built up so far. But there's something I do in every broadcast. I make this statement because there's people like Rob Port that can't get it right. There's all these FBI agents that are going to be able to say, well, I saw this or that. No, in just about every broadcast I make this statement. I am the nation's most important, unheard eyewitness in the grand conspiracy investigation. I stung Sally Yates using FISA to run organized crime to defraud the taxpayers. When I stung Sally Yates in 2010, she told me that we would attack Trump because we're taking over by whatever means necessary. And Trump is a problem for us. She identified herself as the Eastern Star, which is the female branch of the Freemasons. I run her family history and proved that that's where she comes from. I have repeatedly shown evidence of the FBI preventing me from being heard in the nation's top investigations. No FBI agent has come forward to say, I looked at his evidence and spoke with Ferris Broxton. His testimony and evidence are not valid. Nobody has done that. Alvin Winston is the human source validator. The person that Chris Wray appointed to be the special agent in charge over my case is also just coincidentally classified as the human source validator. That's kind of disturbing. He also holds, well, I just said that. Now, we brought you right up to the edge of this cliff, and we gave you a bird's eye view of the storm. So you've been able to watch this hurricane, this tornado from a distance. You saw it get icky. Now you're fixing to get contaminated because you are about to be exposed to the full corruption of the secret society. You want to know how the Freemasons can gain control over their members so effectively that they can overthrow a country. This is going to be one of our discussion points on this broadcast series. We're going to talk about this repeatedly because, today it's just going to be one of their videos. We're just using their information to show you what they do. The person at the top, Sally Yates, tried to force me into their criminal organization. I caught him. Like I said, you can watch their entire family history of Masonic corruption on ferrisburoxton.com in season 1. I studied them for 20 years or 18 years. Many of the lower level Freemasons don't understand how corrupt this organization is. Now, we are fixing to step into a blistering storm of corruption, and I can tell right now that Josiah has something he wants to say.
I do.
Go ahead.
When it comes to the level of this corruption, if you think about it, what we were saying earlier, how people get roped in, or at the lower levels, they don't know. But you think about the loop that we get when they get lawyers become judges, they get cops. Well, cops catch fish. We're the fish. They feed the system. They feed us to the system. Yeah. And so what you have going on now with all that, criminal charges and stuff that they can issue and keep us all tied up in court, where the judges and everybody are Freemasons, essentially they control one entire branch of the government. Legislative, executive, and judicial. They have the entire judicial branch on lockdown. And
you're getting ready to hear. I'm glad you said that because anybody that's paid attention to this realizes that, of course, not all police officers are Freemasons. I'm not saying all Freemasons are criminals.
Or not every lawyer, not every judge.
Yeah, I'm saying that from the top down, the way they function out of their own mouths. I've put on videos of them saying that they have this, they call it a college scheme to start, they try to do it to me. I was a educated scientist at a major university. I've seen this. Most people in lower levels don't get this. They'll a lot of times get trapped into fraternities or sororities that are based on the same concepts as Freemasons. Many of them are organized by Freemasons or feed into the Freemasons. But this isn't all cops. I think the vast majority of cops I deal with are great. My concern is that there is this network trying to suck law enforcement into this criminal conspiracy, and you're getting ready to hear it out of their own mouth. Is there anything else you want to see before we step into this mess?
Let's get messy.
Alrighty. So, before the Freemasons give you any power, they first gain control over you. The more the puppet master controls someone, the more power they can give them. One of the common ways to gain control over someone is to get them into a compromising position, like with a minor, or to get illicit material on their phone, to feed them something tempting and get them caught, okay? Members of the Freemasons are brought in only after they are blindfolded and sworn to secrecy. Before they're given any real power, okay? Many of them at some point are drugged and placed in a compromising position in order to gain control over them. They tried to do this to me repeatedly. I caught them. So, here in North Dakota, we have a rash of child exploitation cases. Our former respected senator, a legislator for 45 years. Now, that's the longest anyone's ever served in the state legislature. Ray Holmberg was convicted of, wait for it, child sex tourism. Now, I've heard all kinds of crimes that just make my skin crawl, but this man was convicted of child sex tourism.
It's hard to imagine seeing that on the books. Like, that's a dignified term.
The longest standing state senator I think one person tied him for the record, 45 years in the state legislature. Now that might sound like an interesting charge to you. The charge itself indicates that this was a way of life for our senator. The pervert literally was a child sex tourist, traveling overseas habitually to engage in the most disgusting behavior imaginable. Here's the problem. The man offended from at least, this is the reports, from the Drew Wrigley's office, right? The man that was formerly the U.S. attorney over the spy agencies. Yeah. Kind of, yeah. All right. He offended from at least 2008 until 2021.
That we know of.
What's wrong with this picture?
Everything.
Okay, so how does a lawmaker go to Prague without the spy agencies knowing that he's left the country and keeping an eye on him? Anybody? How does a lawmaker, we spy, we keep track of immigrants and all kinds of, how does a lawmaker go repeatedly into a place where he can molest little children over a period of at least 13 years? At least. There's only one way that happened. Our spy agencies let that happen. They watched them. That's how they operate. We own you. We control you. We're going to let you do whatever as long as you do what we want. This is disturbing. How is it possible for a lawmaker to have gotten away with this for so long? When the spies control... Go ahead.
Bigger question.
Okay.
And you might already know this. I didn't look into this part of it. How did he get caught? Oh. Did they finally stop having his back for some reason?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know.
How do we know about this?
I have not followed that case really closely, but what I know is this is a pattern that I see, that Sally Yates literally demonstrated for me and that my studies show me. The way that our government is working is they are spying on all the candidates, gaining control over and making the people they control, giving them the support of the Freemasons and bringing them into power because they control them. If the spy agency controls the lawmakers, then the spy agency controls which laws govern themselves. So here's the problem. I'm getting ready to show you exactly where the problem is. If the FBI is allowed to write their own rules, and if the DOJ is allowed to write their own rules, they can overthrow the country. Because people like me can come forward and say, hey, I went to the FBI and they wouldn't give me an agent's name. Nobody's responsible. Nobody's been responsible for obstructing this investigation because the FBI is not required to say, Ferris sent in this report. Here's the receipts showing that we got it on this date. Here's the agent that he sat down and spoke to. Here's a copy of the evidence he provided. They're allowed to do what you were talking about and what we've documented so many times. They're allowed to obstruct the investigation anonymously. The lawmakers have to be the ones to pass the laws to say, no, it's going to be just like your local police department or the sheriff's department. If you go down there and you say, Fred hit me and I got a black eye, an officer writes a report and it has his name and his badge number on the report. And you get a copy of that report. That's not how the FBI operates. That's how they have to start operating, and that has to be passed by the lawmakers. But if the spy agencies can spy on the lawmakers and gain control over them, they want those lawmakers to be in power. They want the Ray Holmbergs to be passing the laws because Ray Holmberg is the one that's going to stop them being accountable. Okay, that's what spying does. When you watch everything that somebody does, you're on a negative scale. If they were to take you and say, okay, we're going to follow you with flock cameras. Now, right now they can't do it. But if they control the lawmakers, they can change the way the policies of how these flock cameras are governed. They could say, you're going to drive to Florida on vacation. You drive to Florida on vacation, you drive back. Now, if they can videotape every single bit of that, they can take your driver's license from you. They can ruin you. If somebody can spy on you full time, they can, on a negative system, take away. Oh, your insurance companies want to be able to access all the flock camera data so that they can fine and tax and raise the rates of the people that don't cooperate. It's just AI doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. You think that's reasonable search and seizure? I don't. Okay. That's why so many people are up in arms, because they begin to think about what the spy agencies can do. So we are going to play a few clips from the Freemasons. They're going to make your spine shiver. These clips are taken from their video titled The Secret Story of the Freemasons, Endeavor, ENDEVR. Now, my testimony is that what they do is far worse than they admit. This is just what they admit in one of many documentaries they publish. This is just one of their documentaries that I took these clips out of. So, this is...
changed as well. First, nearly all the aristocrats disappeared. All that remained was the petite bourgeoisie, which remains dominant in lodges even today. There was also a rise in the members belonging to certain professions that are still overrepresented in Freemasonry nowadays. Doctors, lawyers, professors, and sometimes policemen.
Okay, so you just saw the Freemasons themselves. I don't buy everything they said, but this was after World War II, and this is in France, okay? And he's saying they're nation, they're worldwide, but this man, a Freemason, is saying we have a concentration of Freemasons that are doctors, lawyers, and police officers. Okay, that's interesting. Now, like you said, this is not just the judicial branch that's meeting, but this is people that get into the legislative branch. They've pointed out they've been highly involved in world conquest, from Hitler's Germany and the USSR to Napoleon. Almost all of Napoleon's family were Freemasons. When Hitler occupied Paris, he set up in the Masonic lodges because that's who was running France. The Soviets looted the lodges in France and stored all of the documents in Russia. Okay, obviously the Soviets wanted to know how the Freemasons were able to control the French government. Now, the French were obviously controlled by the Freemasons. That's not, so when you hear about this like conspiracy and world conquest and like, oh no, we're not trying to control governments. Oh really? Obviously they were in France, where this video is made and where this man is saying we have a high concentration of these professions, lawyers, doctors, and police officers, which means, like you just pointed out earlier, you were on point, judges, lawmakers. So
I didn't think about the doctors, but it makes sense.
Okay, so that's... Notice he says there was a rise in the proportions of certain professions. That's just, there's a concentration is what he's saying. How do you feel about judges, lawyers, attorneys, and police officers having a place where they can meet in secret? Oh wait, I didn't prove that yet. Let me use their words.
It's there.
The principle of confidentiality among Freemasons is built on a promise to respect what another says. You cannot repeat anything that was said inside the temple or during a ritual outside that context.
Okay, so that's their own words. This is their video with their spokesman saying that their members are sworn to secrecy, to keep everything secret in the dramas they act out, okay, within, and he calls it what? A temple. That's demonic, y'all. As a Christian believer, that's really sick. But what he is saying is if you're a member of the Freemasons, you're a police officer. Well, there's a whole bunch of police officers in there, according to them, and a whole bunch of judges and lawyers and lawmakers, etc. So you go into the lodge, and a judge comes up to you and says something that's completely wrong. Like, hey, I need you to help me, like, throw this case. The guy, you got a case coming in, and the guy you arrested for, whatever, bank robbery, that was our job.
Or get rid of a body.
We're gonna minimize. We're gonna work this down. Oh, by the way, we got a case here where the local media is screaming about the prosecutor letting the charges off on a federal agent. Trying to reduce the charges on a federal agent.
I have not heard about this yet.
Yeah, it's Beck News is doing it. It's
I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, no, it's the Dunseith debacle, part of the Dunseith debacle case. The federal agent that came and shot another special agent and his girlfriend. and we did a story on it. But so yeah, and then the state prosecutor started dropping the charges, and our hero, who I've been voting on her to be elected, and Beck News to be elected as like the reporter and program of the year. But they've covered this. It's called InjusticeInThee.com. You can watch that whole series on this. But that's what's so suspicious here. I see this stuff going on, but this man's, I'm like, who's behind this? Well, that's why these officials shouldn't be able to swear loyalty to a lodge or something. We want to know that there's nothing being hidden, nothing being done, that this man really was, if he was really a dirty cop that's murdering people and covering up some massive crime, possibly, they were linked to, he also had some stuff, and there's witnesses against him on the Dunseith side also. So like, why are they reducing charges against this guy? But that's what's so scary. When you see and you understand that if you're a member of the Freemasons Lodge, you've been sworn to secrecy, you can go in there and somebody can come up and tell you something. Now, they're not saying that the guy has to do it, but they're just saying they can arrange this. Mm-hmm. They're telling you who's in there and that you can't talk about it. You can't walk back out of there. If you're a police officer, you have this massive multi-million member organization of lawyers, doctors, police officers, lawmakers, judges, that you're going to be betraying and violating your oath to if you come out and you say, hey, there was a judge in there trying to get me to commit a crime. They're sworn to secrecy. That's what's wrong with the Freemasons.
And they swear their life to it. You violate it, and it's like you're signing your own death note.
They take oaths of loyalty, and they literally, act out these skits of being tortured, having severed in twain, having their intestines ripped out. I mean, all these horrible, they take literal oaths of these things. There's a ton more of this. Some of the videos and some of those documentaries, some of the people that gotten out of it, the things that they do, the things that they say, and the things that these organizations have been caught doing. Massive criminal organizations, huge bank heist, murders, suicides, literally Masons taking their own life because they're afraid to, law enforcement officers that are Freemasons taking their own life because there's no way out for them. They realize that they can betray their brothers, and literally in one of these cases, it's so horrible, they publish in the paper he was a faithful brother because he took his own life instead of ratting. I mean, it's just like, what?
I also suspect, well, we won't even get into that, I was going to say, but then there's life insurance issues. And it's like, if they have a family that they're trying to protect too, if they violate the oath, and they get killed that way, does something happen to their family? If they just take their own life, probably nothing happens to their family. Nothing bad, I mean.
It depends. I mean, they lie.
That's hypothetical.
There's so many lies. I always got somebody that stands up and says, well, they don't do this, they don't do that. And I'll go find their own videos of them saying we do this.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, they don't even know, or they lie. It's a criminal organization and it needs to be exposed. But that's what's destroying our country. You're getting ready to see this is really disturbing. So this is all done behind closed doors where nobody sees or expects that there is a conspiracy occurring. Freemasons hide in plain sight. But let them tell you that.
Let's visit the seat of one of the three largest Masonic obediences on French territory, the Grande Loge de France. It's located in Paris's 17th arrondissement. We're not allowed to film the facade of the building, nor to reveal the exact address. Jeremy is the chief archivist of the Grande Loge de France. Today, for the first time, he has been given special permission to tell us what happens during a meeting of his obedience.
So they have that huge ornate temple, massive amount of money there.
Beautiful.
And the citizens don't even know where it is. It's hidden. It's a hidden location right in plain view. We're going to tell you what we want you to see. We're going to control the narrative here. We're going to control what the cameras see, but we're going to tell you right up front, we're not even telling you where this is. That's the Freemasons, okay? Sometimes they operate out of a lodge, and the people in the lodge on the lower levels, they may have boys and girls running around, okay? But when you get into the higher level of Freemasons, you begin to see what's really going on. It's a trap, and it's really, really scary. The Freemasons are separated into male and female. Okay, they don't have, when the higher lodges, they don't have the temples, the males and the females together. They're separate. And there's a reason for that, because of the way they operate and gain control over people. It's really disturbing. The females are the Eastern Star. Now here's where it starts to go downhill fast. The leader of the lodge is God to you. When I asked Sally Yates, she tried to get me into this criminal organization. I kept saying, no, I'm not interested. Why not? Because I'm going to answer to God one day, and what you're saying to me, you said it's not quite right, and I'm going to do things right. I don't even know.
Yeah.
You won't explain. You're trying to get me trapped into something that it's open-ended. And this is what she says to me. I'm God. There is no God. I am God. This lady, that's how they think, okay? She's at the top of the Freemasons. The leader of the lodge is God to you. You come in blindfolded. You're sworn to secrecy, and you call the man in charge, get this, the most worshipful master. Now, I had a clip, but I've only got room for 8 clips, so I took it off. That's something that we've got pretty much every video on the Freemasons admits that. That's part of their process. You call the master of the lodge the most worshipful master. If you're a Christian and you read the Bible, you know that that is wrong. Wicked, demonically wrong. All right. Now, here's one I never thought I would find them admit. You're getting ready to step into the storm and see all of this tied together in a way that is going to rock your world. I know they do it because I witnessed it. What you're going to see here is a man and the Freemasons who is blindfolded. And they pour something out of a small vial into his goblet, presumably with wine or something else in it. They're drugging him. The vial says feel, which means to fall. They depict giving a blindfolded man a potion to make him fall. And he falls. How much more of a fall does this man take in life while he's unconscious? Feel. Remember that. To fall. They depict themselves as drugging him without him knowing it. Now, this man, you're going to hear the narrator tell you that this secret was revealed by the Nazis. Okay? So this man, literally, what you're seeing here is a reenactment, but you're going to see that it is a French Freemason who is narrating this documentary say the film was thought up, directed, and staged by former Freemasons. People that have witnessed this before. Then he says it was completely accurate and that this process was kept completely secret up until then. Now, if you combine this confession right here with the spy agency's activities in, say, MK Ultra, using modern drugs like Rohypnol, you end up pretty fast with a Masonic society full of top government officials that are under someone's control. Now let's take the court system in Georgia with the historic Masonic control of Sally Yates' family. There was already an investigation into this accusation. I lived through this attack, and I caught the people that did it. Multiple people have come forward. But I'm going to play this video for you. It is downright disturbing. This is, again, the Freemasons admitting that they did this, that it's an ancient tradition, and that it was exposed by people that came out of the lodge that were former Freemasons.
The film was directed, thought up, and staged by people who were former Masons, so it was the first time a Masonic ritual of the time was shown on a movie screen. Our Masonic ceremonies haven't changed since then. The ritual it's shown is completely accurate. It's troubling because it had been kept almost entirely secret until then.
Okay, that is downright disturbing. The whole video I don't show there. In the whole video that the Nazis put out, the man falls. Okay, now, in Jackson County, Georgia, where Sally Yates and the Richard Brevard Russell family settled the state of Georgia, her Terrell ancestor being the founding member that still has a plaque there. Mike Buffington of the Jackson County Herald reported that multiple people came to him and he started his own investigation. What happened was multiple different unrelated people told horrible stories to him with the same 3 common themes. One of the common themes reported by these unrelated victims was a health elixir that varied in taste and consistency, which made it effective for mixing feel in. My wife was bringing that swanky health elixir to the house before I was attacked. The second common theme was a very expensive and unique sports car that had a vanity tag identifying the owner. This was published in the paper by Mike Buffington. When I met Sally Yates, she drove a Mercedes McLaren with a vanity tag that said Fed Pro, which stands for Federal Prosecutor. I didn't remember the meeting with Sally Yates at first, but when my stepbrother called me the next morning, I realized I had been drugged. The third common theme that Mike Buffington published in his investigation was this disturbing manner of attack that these unrelated people reported. By the time I went to Mike Buffington, he wouldn't talk to me. The FBI took over his investigation, took down his news stories, never to be seen again. Sally Yates controlled the FBI as the U.S. Attorney over North Georgia at that time. Her family members ran that circuit. I've documented many of those names and relationships. Jimmy Terrell, her relative in the Freemasons, is still the mayor of Winder today. Now, we never got to see the results of that investigation. My stepbrother, Brad Lynch, is dead. The man who witnessed Sally Yates meeting with me at a restaurant that he managed called me the next morning. My stepbrother quickly realized that I couldn't remember much from the night before, but he caused me to get an early start on recovering that memory. There's a storm of unbelievable corruption that is coming to our country by those who spy on people to gain control over them. I hope that you will like, share, and follow this video and this website. I hope you will help me be heard in the biggest investigation in U.S. history. I am the eyewitness against the people who are bringing the storm and the destruction to our country.